King Charles and Prince William still believe Meghan Markle is a bigger threat to the royal family than Prince Andrew.
Prince Harry has vanished from the spotlight after journalist Piers Morgan reignited controversy with explosive claims about Meghan Markle. The Duke of Sussex has gone uncharacteristically silent. The sudden withdrawal has only intensified speculation, with royal watchers questioning what is really happening behind closed doors in Montecito. Is this calculated damage control, a legal strategy, or a sign that the pressure has finally reached a breaking point? What are really the roots of Piers's claims? Join us as we uncover the mysteries surrounding the Sussex household. Morgan throwing grenades. Controversies regarding royals are no new thing to the world of media and entertainment. In fact, as the highest-ranking members of monarchical societies, their business is more often than not placed in a glass case for public speculation. Despite the royal family's numerous attempts to maintain secrecy, it has never been able to fully stop its doings from stepping out of castle doors. A new and exciting hot take for tabloids to write on now comes into play with an inviting caption: "The California Dream is going up in smoke." English broadcaster Piers Morgan has decided to drop photos that would shake both sides of the Atlantic. These photos aren't cute throwbacks or never-before-seen paparazzi shots. They're of the Duchess of Sussex. They're yacht photos showing Meghan in bad elite social circles linked to certain controversial figures. This same environment helped push her uncle-in-law, Prince Andrew, out of office. This same mistake now threatens to push her onto the same path. When doing this, Morgan didn't flinch in the slightest. He made comments that sparked backlash and controversy across television and social media. He had enough trust in the materials he'd gathered for years. He knew exactly what Meghan was and wanted to show the public. Upon learning about the exposed files, Meghan panicked. To exercise quick damage control, Meghan reportedly contacted Morgan's bosses directly, proactively pushing behind the scenes to silence him as the questions became impossible to ignore. And yet, Piers Morgan himself pointed out with clear confidence that he isn't backing down. Being a royal on a yacht wasn't the problem. It was the manner of the yacht on which she was on. She was on the Jeffrey Epstein yacht, a vehicle infamous for serving as an isolated private venue used to transport and facilitate the abuse of a plethora of victims away from the reach of law enforcement. Catching an unlucky royal here was like gold in his eyes. It suddenly revealed so much about his own speculation and past rumors surrounding Meghan herself. Most of the time, insiders' investigations describe her role as a social filler. That label in itself isn't a full-on insult. Social fillers are polished, charming people placed in rooms to set the tone before targeted power players arrive. The pattern of filling is what grabs scrutiny. International flights, luxury yacht appearances, five-star hotels, and constant movement through elite circles filled with billionaires and power brokers. Not once, but repeatedly, across multiple years and continents. Nothing made sense. At the time, Meghan was a supporting actress on Suits. A steady role, sure, but not one with a gigantic paycheck. A solid cable salary could not possibly cover her lifestyle. If she was truly there by her own discretion and not as a member, it wouldn't have been possible for her earnings to cover private jets, yachts, and continuous luxury travel. That sort of lifestyle being lived by a working actress was impractical. It was not by her power, so clearly the doors were opened by another person. Were there even introductions into these dark spaces, or did she simply belong in there? These circles were elite and secretive. They never welcomed outsiders, so who exactly was she? Despite speculations, no crimes were alleged, nor were careless accusations thrown. Instead, people did something else. They carefully reviewed the Piers Morgan story, and instead made a connection to another case in which Meghan appeared. Ropes tied to the Ghislaine case. Here, at the center of this case, is Ghislaine Maxwell, a former British socialite and convicted sex offender who is currently serving a 20-year federal prison sentence in Florida. She is best known as the long-term associate and right-hand woman of the late American financier and convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. After being charged with trafficking, recruiting, and grooming, her social empire is gone. her influence buried in the ground, and her once bright future is now locked behind concrete and razor wire. She will almost certainly spend the rest of her life behind bars. And that's exactly why she's dangerous. She's someone who has nothing to lose. Now, her prosecutors know a certain rule regarding these sorts of carefree inmates well. People stay silent only when silence still has a use for them. When they have friends left, leverage left, hope left. Maxwell has none of that. Her allies and reputation vanished as her money dried up. With nothing left to care for, her cooperation hormones skyrocketed during questioning. According to multiple sources, when confessing, Maxwell didn't whisper or hint. She started talking plainly about the ordeals. She mentioned names, timelines, connections, and real people who moved through the same stained ecosystems she once helped manage. This desperation to release now trivial pieces of information made her name drop Jeffrey Epstein and Meghan Markle. But with Epstein being dead, focus could only shift to one person's case file. The connection among herself, Meghan, Epstein, and Soho House was now impossible to ignore. The Soho House was a high-profile international chain of private clubs that served as a backdrop for celebrity interactions, and the likes run by her and Epstein. That was the surface story. Anyway, behind closed doors, its international locations and pathways served as a bridge between worlds that dared not mix in the open. Hollywood met global finance. New money mingled with old aristocracy. Attention seekers crossed paths with people who avoided cameras. Drug dealers met authorities. Cartel members met opposing gang members, and so on. These weren't casual hangouts in any sense. They were carefully engineered spaces with the right type of energy and discretion to welcome powerful guests. And Meghan Markle was reportedly flown internationally to help create that atmosphere. A perfectly placed receiver/escort of some sort to make these influential people feel safe and comfortable. A social filler. The public thought about various things, including the cleanliness of her hands. With all the allegations surrounding those involved with the Soho House, they wondered if it was even remotely possible for Meghan's hands to remain clean. Tight, social media spaces like Reddit didn't miss the opportunity. Theorists and commentators of politics immediately drew out possibilities of her affiliations with Jeffrey's Island and files. In their eyes, there was just a little digging left before they discovered island photos, just like the journalist had discovered the yachts. In all this digging deep, more court cases involving Meghan came to light. This time, it involved a victim rather than an accomplice, the near-miss Giuffre saga. This could have easily been the end of it all for her. But perhaps luck was on her side for a little bit in this situation. The whispers grew serious, and not only fans, but investigators too began putting her name on their radar. Again, the appearance of a royal in these crime files was uncanny. During the civil case brought by Virginia Giuffre, the case that completely dismantled Prince Andrew's public standing, Meghan's name nearly entered the courtroom. This time, she didn't come in as a defendant, but as a potential witness. Witnesses aren't accused of crimes. They're simply people who may have seen or heard something or been present during moments that later became legally significant. Virginia Giuffre, also known as Virginia Roberts, was an American-Australian activist and one of the most prominent survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking ring. She tragically died by self-harm on April 25, 2025, at the age of 41, at her farm in Western Australia. Her book, Nobody's Girl, a memoir of surviving abuse and fighting for justice, was published in October in the same year as she had requested before her death. The book details harrowing abuse by Epstein and Maxwell and includes her first public comments on Prince Andrew since their 2022 settlement. A legal battle began in late 2025 over her multi-million-dollar estate in Western Australia, as she died without leaving a will. Her brothers recently came forward to call for the release of the Epstein files, stating they wish to defend her legacy now that her voice is gone. Accusations against Prince Andrew also arose during this discussion. In this, Giuffre was the center of a major international scandal after alleging that Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein trafficked her to the Duke of York for intimacy on 3 occasions when she was 17. At the end of the day, the court finally revealed the three main reasons investigators actually considered Meghan's testimony in this particular case. First, they considered her living in the United States, which simplified the jurisdiction. Second, she was described as a close associate of Prince Andrew during a sensitive overlap period. Third, she moved within Epstein's broader social environment when illegal activity was occurring. She was the perfect person to see it from numerous perspectives, but was never called. The case settled before that step, but the damage wasn't in the outcome. Regardless, it was still a fact that federal investigators possessing subpoena power reviewed Meghan's history and believed there was something worth asking about. It's not possible to get almost called in as a witness, especially in a federal case involving trafficking and abuse, unless investigators see concrete relevance. That near miss should have set off alarms to the public too. They too should have asked questions on why there were questions in the first place. Instead, it vanished beneath royal PR, wedding headlines, fairy tale framing, and the everlasting, non-stop royal spectacle. In the end, nothing really went away. The allegations remained in the hearts of those connected to the couple, friends, family, and even neighbors. These neighbors, however, were less tolerant than those in the royal family. The collapse of paradise. The collapse of the Duke and Duchess's public image only meant one thing: the end of their stay in the classy Montecito environment. The neighbors have had enough. There was constant paparazzi, media coverage, unknown people, and the like, constantly plaguing the usually serene environment to investigate the couple and get an exclusive scoop. As the yacht scandal exploded across the media on the internet, Montecito itself has also become unlivable for the Sussex couple. This isn't just a result of one bad headline or the media anymore. It's a full-scale collapse happening all at once. The fed-up, wealthy Montecito crowd has iced them out completely. They wanted nothing to do with the couple anymore, and now saw them as a disturbance after a collective decision was made with community well-being at the forefront. The royal couple was voted out. Charity invites usually handed out to them for visibility vanished. Dinner parties quietly erased their names from the waiting list. The same cafes and boutiques that once rolled out red carpets for them to walk on now feel tense and judgmental just by the mention of their names. Discuss everywhere with faces frowning heavily. Everyone in the community now felt somewhat betrayed. One local insider summed it up perfectly, saying, "This town has real celebrities who don't drag chaos everywhere they go. We value privacy, but the Sussex brought cameras and controversy. It's disgraceful when you think about it, and I want to have nothing to do with it." Suddenly, the door to the Sussex household was slammed shut, and they were locked from the outside by those who didn't even possess keys to their homes. The social exile was as painful as they come, but that was only the beginning. They were about to lose more. The financial freefall was worse. Reduced media presence meant losing media credits. The stocks the couple had garnered over the years from all the gigs, TV appearances, and even those gained just from being a royal, were crashing. Their deal with Netflix also came to an end. After throwing over $100 million at the couple, it was a massive blow to the marketing department. Executives became furious. Their catalysts for bringing in so much more were now dead. The promised content never landed because the couple went into hiding. Past content had to be taken down too, as their faces brought disdain. The documentary series featuring the couple also ended with their deaths. With every watch came a new microanalysis reel condemning all and none related to it. These pushed viewers away instead of pulling them in. The negative PR was as big, if not bigger, than their original attempts at marketing. In the end, the insiders say the relationship is beyond repair. They mention in an interview how they do not see the couple being able to successfully retain subscribers at a certain level anymore. Now, not just Netflix, but other brand deals of theirs turned toxic. The Archwell Foundation also went through its own meltdown. Suddenly, 11 staff members disappeared. A full 11-man unit of experienced professionals went off the radar in rapid succession. No one could track them. They all just vanished, leaving the organization in a deeper pit. On seeing this, even the executive director James Holt uprooted his family from the foundation. He simply quietly packed his bags. then walked away once the dysfunction in proceedings reached a point that demanded hassled explanations. The money drain after all this was brutal. The Montecito mansion alone costs $14 million. Property taxes run around 6 figures per year. Security bills and logistics run into the millions too. An exit from a lifestyle that demands non-stop cash flow was almost an impossible feat for royalty. Their Spotify deal also crashed and burned. Book deals were cooling. Speaking gigs were drying up. Public patience was completely gone, and nobody cared to glance twice. Behind the scenes, Meghan was reportedly scouting escape routes, trying to find places they could go and start afresh without their royal tag hindering them, without their new stench-filled tag disturbing them. Texas was one of the options that kept popping up. Europe too was being explored, but no conclusion was really made. It would all still come back to bite them. They knew they needed to solve the reputation issue. Morgan's photos were everywhere, and geography wasn't the answer. She wanted out of a town that fully rejected her and her disturbing past. But why not speak up? Was the question asked. If your argument is true, why not speak up? It was only a matter of time before her prolonged silence would bring about more personalized scrutiny, arrows targeted close to the heart. Since these inconsistencies started looking like they wouldn't be properly explained, it made Piers question everything she'd done so far. Silence in his eyes meant guilt. And tracing back to other situations where she also didn't explain, did it mean she always had something to hide? He doubled down on pointing his fingers. Morgan brought up speculation that her pregnancy was staged. With time, these pregnancy controversies only roared louder. It had been a pressing, unanswered topic for some time, so it took the public by storm again. People wanted to know what really happened. Meghan's pregnancy unfolded like a psychopathic mystery series. One appearance showed her with a prominent bump, carefully cradled, weak, movements slow and protective. Days later, sometimes the very next day, the bump appeared smaller, positioned completely differently, with movement suddenly effortless. Surely there was no maternal care or special royal secret medicine that could do that to a woman. It wasn't an observation regarding months of change. It's about days, sometimes hours. One moment, she appeared barely mobile at a public event. Then a few hours later, paparazzi captured her climbing stairs, pivoting sharply, bending easily, and even strutting in stilettos. These were physical contradictions that were ultimately dismissed after a self-gaslighting saga by the public. With a good number of loyalists defending her, it was easy to come out victorious. These concerns were ultimately buried under wedding hype and fairy tale headlines. But now, with viral yacht photos circulating globally and a criminal, Maxwell speaking freely, those old questions are back and louder than ever. It's not possible to be in two places at once. Pregnancy timelines don't bend, don't stretch, and don't negotiate per person. It is a consistent ordeal. Might differ sometimes, but never as much as changing bump size daily. Or were royal officials faking documents now? Was it a general mistake, and the public appearances were a perfect prank staged by someone else? Was it even none, and the whole album of images was just AI generated? Neither explanation seemed to fit like a glove. Then came the moment that shook even longtime defenders of the Duchess's ways. The moment she, unprovoked, broke a promise on the choice of birthplace. Meghan had signaled through trusted palace channels that she wanted an intimate home birth at Frogmore Cottage. The public accepted that without hesitation. Plenty of women tend to choose home births. Nothing strange about that until May 6, 2019 arrived. All her promises were empty. Nowhere to be found at Frogmore. All that was left were the echoes from her performative lies. Instead, Meghan gave birth at the Portland Hospital, a location never mentioned before. After that, she didn't offer any explanation. No statement from palace communications, not even a single sentence acknowledging the sudden shift. No mention of medical complications, no emergency justification, just silence, like it was another day at the office. That characteristic silence has now forced questions out of the masses. How much of her stories were ever real? And if her strategy was either to run away or stay quiet, what would her husband, the prince, be doing? Drawing parallels with Uncle Andrew. This wasn't in any way only a problem for his wife. The Duke was more or less also in danger. The situation sounded so similar to that of his uncle, Prince Andrew. Even though they weren't close and their relationship was jagged, he knew he needed to look at him to escape this mess that threatened a death-if image. This is where the Prince Andrew parallel begins to matter, and why it reportedly terrifies Harry. He watched his uncle's downfall unfold in real time. Andrew didn't lose everything because of gossip or tabloid pressure. He fell because allegations crossed a line he couldn't defend anymore. Once sworn testimonies were entered into the record, once photographs were authenticated and depositions taken, the fairy tale collapsed instantly. That is how scandals actually end, not with headlines or public relations maneuvers, but with testimony, documents, and statements made under penalty of perjury. All it takes is one smart ploy to fully destroy what you've built in your lifetime. Andrew became the cautionary example every royale understands. Proof that silence and legal maneuvering can protect you for years, until suddenly they can't anymore. Both Andrew and Harry moved within elite social environments, but suddenly, through an abrupt showing of documentation and testimony, Andrew was suspiciously linked to Jeffrey Epstein's world. Andrew was explicitly named by Virginia Giuffre in sworn testimony, creating a permanent legal record that no manner of statement or settlement could undo. Meghan, meanwhile, was reportedly considered as a potential witness in that same investigation. She was not accused, and that distinction matters. But the fact that investigators believed there was something relevant enough to ask under oath is significant on its own. Harry understands this distinction better than most. He knows the royal institution possesses tools that California publicists don't. Lawyers trained to contain, fixers with centuries of institutional memory, protocols designed to neutralize scandals before they ever approach a courtroom. History has always shown how effective English protection can be. Other royals with complicated past associations saw stories flare briefly, then fade once absorbed by the institution's machinery. That shield works only up to a point. Once subpoenas are issued, once depositions are scheduled, once questions are asked under oath, no protocol can put that genie back in the bottle. That reality frames the question now hanging over everything. What did Harry know, and when did he know it? If he was aware of this foul elite social access, questionable proximity, or reputational risks, and helped minimize or obscure them, that opens the door to something far more serious than him being oblivious. If he didn't know and walked in blind, failed basic due diligence, or was misled, then he married into a situation that now threatens everything he built in California, and potentially his remaining family ties. Either scenario ends ugly. Was he an accomplice or a blind prince? What was it that made Harry run back to seek protection from the same household that he condemned after the loss of his HRH title? A family he publicly condemned as toxic, the family he accused of cruelty, the system he blamed for his personal struggles. Yacht photographs place Meghan with ties to Epstein. Ghislaine Maxwell, speaking from prison. Old pregnancy inconsistencies have resurfaced. The rapid staff turnover at Archwell. Fear of falling in the same pit as his enemy uncle. All together, all at once, and yet the main catalyst chooses to do nothing. But through all of this, one detail towers above everything else: the silence. Meghan Markle has said nothing. No legal statements, no spokesperson clarifying facts, no celebrity friend stepping forward to help, no legal threats aimed at Morgan or the outlets amplifying these questions. This is the same woman who previously sued newspapers over far smaller stories. The same woman whose allies regularly briefed friendly journalists on the most trivial matters. The same woman who personally contacted Morgan's bosses, trying to shut him down for asking uncomfortable questions. Now nothing. In the court of public opinion, silence like this usually reads as an inability to deny. It reads as avoidance. It reads as questions with answers nobody wants to say out loud. On the prince, if these were provable lies, wouldn't he unleash lawyers instantly? Wouldn't he demand retractions? Wouldn't he defend his wife loudly and publicly? Instead, there's silence and a flight back to London to beg for a spot back in the monarchy. At the royal institution, they may protect Harry because he's a blood royal, and protecting him means protecting the crown itself. However, history shows the monarchy knows how to shield insiders, but almost always at the expense of those on the outside to preserve the bloodline. What would happen to Meghan if Harry were saved? Do you think the crown will be able to save Harry and Meghan? And what do you think is the reason behind Harry's fall? Negligence or love? Share your thoughts with us in the comment section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.